Have you ever heard a song and thought to yourself, well, gee, I keep getting real serious major vibes from this, but then it feels a little melancholic, and then you start saying, well, I'm getting some serious minor vibes from this. If so, chances are extremely good you've been duped by the Mixolydian mode. Mixolydian tends to confuse people who think strictly in terms of major or minor sounds. They either mentally describe the song as major or get little hints of minor that conflict with that major sounding face. This is what makes Mixolydian such a cool mode and gives it what most would describe a melancholic or nostalgic vibe. The flat 7 robs the listener of that unmistakable, sickly sweet saccharine quality of major that we all expect, and it introduces a brief glint of melancholy, so the listener can never comfortably settle in one spot and constantly has a foot in both the major and minor camps at all times. That said, Mixolydian isn't just a one-trick pony. There are a lot of really cool ways to access the distinctly Mixolydian sound. Some start to lean into the full sad boy, while others tastefully straddle the line between the two tonal worlds to maintain a cool, nostalgic feel. To me, very few songs capture this major-minor dichotomy better than Dire Dire Docks from Mario 64. I think we can all have a shared childhood moment here and agree that this song is amazing, and without question is in the pantheon of video game water level themes. Dire Dire Docks makes use of what 8-bit music theory calls the two-chord trick, which is, as the name suggests, a trick using just two chords to evoke strong modal sounds. In this case, Dire Dire Docks opens up with a beautiful vamp from G major to F major, or a major 1 to a flat 7. This trick is effective because when a song opens up with a major chord, your ear expects to hear a note one semitone below the root, in this case F sharp. That said, after the first two bars, we're given not an F sharp, but an F natural, giving an unexpected and surprisingly not so intense feel. And it's just so beautiful! Now, one extra really cool thing about the opening here. Koji Kondo wasn't satisfied just using the Mixolydian mode, but made us question reality once again by twisting the Mixolydian sound we've already established into the Aeolian, or strictly minor as one might also know it, sound with an E-flat major that ascends back up to G major. If we'd stayed in Mixolydian, that E-flat would be an E minor. But I digress. This 1 to flat 7 progression to evoke the Mixolydian sound can be found everywhere in game music. Chrono Trigger's Guardia Millennial Fair is another beautiful tune that evokes a distinctly Celtic vibe, and this isn't entirely by accident either. Celtic music is heavily associated with Mixolydian. After all, bagpipes are in fact tuned to the Mixolydian scale. Scotland loves the Mixolydian mode, so it's only right that festive, folky music adopts this tradition. Anyway, Guardia Millennial Fair is another tune that highlights the flat 7 to straddle the line between the major and minor worlds. In the opening, we start off harmlessly enough on a D major chord, but almost immediately a C natural is thrown in as if to tell the D major chord not to get too excited because it's not time to resolve yet. A full C major chord is introduced in the next bar, and what's essentially a pseudo 4-5-1 progression brings us to our dominant chord A major. But wait, A major has a C sharp, so what's the big idea here? One of the few downsides to modal music is that it doesn't always resolve in particularly strong ways. If the C natural were kept forming an A minor, the resolution to the next section wouldn't be nearly as strong. A minor to D major just doesn't have quite the same punch as A major to D major. So, it's common practice to temporarily let the tonic chord have a little bit of fun by briefly reintroducing the natural 7. After a festive introduction to the next section, our melody comes in. Again, harmlessly enough, we're on a D major with no sevens, flat or otherwise, in sight. That is, until 2 bars later we come across an unabashed A minor chord with its C natural on point in the melody. Going from a 1 to a minor 5 is another bullseye way to squeeze Mixolydian out of a tune, since it opens up not only the cool sounding harmonic opportunities of the overall chord, but the opportunity to approach the 5 of the key from above melodically for a very melancholic, minory sort of sound. Check it out. You see what I mean? The 2 examples so far have really shown the melancholic face of the Mixolydian mode, but don't be fooled into thinking that that's all Mixolydian gets you. Ocarina of Time has something to say about that. In the Hyrule Field main theme, we see the exact same progression in the exact same key no less as we did Dire Dire Docks, yet a tempo change, a more dramatic melody, and intrepid syncopated rhythm takes us from wanting to go take a swim to wanting to rip our clothes off and go run naked through the wide open fields. But on second thought, that might just be a me thing. Anyway, take a listen. So far, we've mainly looked at the 1 to flat 7 progression to evoke Mixolydian, but I briefly mentioned the minor 5 earlier, which is another extremely reliable way to get that kinda bright, but not so bright you can't stand it feel. This one will probably surprise a lot of you, I hope it does. Most of us know Aerith's theme from Final Fantasy VII, and most of us, with good reason, love it. It was one of the first songs I'd heard as a kid that really made me want to pursue music. Little Vermanubis was so verklempt with emotion he barely knew what to do with himself, and it's still the same way to this day. In the opening to Aerith's theme, there's something funny going on though. We have a D major, but then an A minor? If you see what's going on, then hopefully this is the nail in the coffin that sells you on the melancholic, bitter-sweet power of Mixolydian, since I can think of few songs that make me want to cry so badly without being sad. Take a listen. That flat 7 really does the trick here. The opening melody is a D arpeggio in second inversion, meaning that instead of being played D F sharp A in root position, we get an F sharp A D. My reasoning for this is, aside from just sounding great on its own, which is often all you need to justify a musical decision, not everything needs to have a compelling music theoretic reason, is letting the melody hang on that D just screams for a move to the dominant A major, which implies a C sharp. But instead of a C sharp, our hearts get lifted up by the D major, then dropped like a sack of potatoes by a C natural. Thank you for the tears, Uematsu-sama. The question you might be wondering now is, how do you decide to use a 1 to flat 7 versus a 1 to minor 5? I'm glad you asked that, because Nobu Uematsu seems to have wondered that himself and did an experiment to figure it out for us. For those of you that played Final Fantasy VI before Final Fantasy VII, you probably heard Aerith's theme and thought, well, gee, this sure sounds a lot like Aria di Mezzo Google.
Aria di mezzo carattere.
And those who played FF7 before FF6 probably thought, gee,
Aria di mezzo carattere.
Sounds a lot like Aerith's theme. Well, that's because Aerith's theme is a pastiche of
Aria di mezzo carattere,
with the main difference being that Aerith's theme uses a 1 to minor 5 and
Aria di mezzo carattere
uses a 1 to flat 7. Take a listen. The song is still bittersweet and carries the same general vibe, but it's not quite as heart-wrenching, at least in my opinion. So why is that? First of all, it's important to note that the flat 7 and minor 5 of Mixolydian share all but one note. Both songs are in the same key, so we have C major as the flat 7 and A minor as the minor 5. This said, the root of the flat 7 is only a step away from the tonic, so moving from the flat 7 to the tonic doesn't carry a lot of harmonic momentum. A move from A to D, however, is a fifth, a move with so much momentum that modern music is built off of it. So, suffice to say, the 1 to minor 5 is all about the drama, and the 1 to flat 7 just wants to have a drama-free night at home. To really test this theory, let's wrap up the video with an example of how one of my favorite world map themes uses the drama of the 1 to minor 5 to keep the grandeur appropriate of a beautiful world map. The opening is a simple 1 to minor 5 vamp with the French horns playing around with chord tones. Suitably dramatic, even on a solo piano arrangement. But let's try turning its 1 to minor 5 into a 1 to flat 7 by turning the E minor into a G major and see how that affects the bombast of the tune. Again, same general vibe, but markedly less dramatic. This calls to mind another Tales world map theme from Tales of Vesperia that contrasts this idea of Mixolydian drama versus Mixolydian chill, even in its name, A Comfortable Journey. This 1 to flat 7 vamp captures the beginning of Yuri's journey perfectly, humble yet adventurous without the drama of the 1 to minor 5. At that, I think you guys are starting to get the idea. Mixolydian is a super cool mode that helps you access what can really only be described as nostalgic melancholy. Whenever you see a song or section start on a major chord and its dominant is minor, or its 7 is flat, chances are really good that you found yourself in the Mixolydian mode. Anyway, now that we've taken a look at Mixolydian, what mode of the major scale would you guys like to see me cover next? Let me know in the comments, and if you do in fact want to see more of these, it only takes a second to hit that subscribe button, and that'll also make sure that you don't miss the next video when it does come out. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys.